Welcome back, everybody. Now, on the channel, I've covered a lot of different decks. We've covered major, big meta decks, we've covered some really crazy rogue decks, and we've even come up with some format-changing decks that I've been very proud of. All of that being said, though, not every idea I have is an absolute winner, and today I'm going to cover a deck that I tried really hard to make work, and I just can't get the deck to perform at a level that it would need to perform at to be a good deck in the format. Now, personally, I love the 2004 format. I've covered a lot of decks on the 2004 format, and I also really love Metagross EX. It's been one of my favorite Pokemon, and I always thought the EX from Hidden Legends was just so strong. I actually played this deck at the 2005 World Championships, but just that automatic being able to bring up something on the bench, hit it for 40 damage, which is a really solid number, and then extra Comet Punch, being able to hit for 100 damage every single turn, combined with having 150 hit points, a metal type, play it with a bunch of different healing. It just screams to be a deck. Now, the biggest challenge in the 2005 or 4 format is that fire and fighting weakness. While the grass resistance is nice, it's not a major. It's not a big deck. There's not a lot of big grass decks in the 2004 format, so it doesn't make a big difference or a big deciding factor. Just that fire and fighting weakness, taking that rough matchup to both Blaziken and Team Magma's Groudon, or Team Magma, is just so tough for the deck. But I was set out and determined to try and make a Metagross deck work. And I could very easily have just done like a Metagross Gorbis deck, but I wanted the EX. I wanted the EX to be a big part of the deck. So the concept, and I threw around a lot of different concepts, and I ended up doing 4 or 5 different variations of this deck. And I started with a very standard Dunsparce variation, and I knew I wanted it to be some sort of healing deck, something based around tanking a Metagross EX, and in matchups I couldn't tank the Metagross. I wanted to be able to tank something else. So I knew some combination of Pokemon Nurse Switch and then the Metal Junction Metagross was going to be a big part of the deck. I knew in matchups that weren't fire or fighting, I could probably just ride that Metagross EX for the win, but I had to be able to answer some of those other matchups. The one problem I kept running into was how tight the deck was on space. It was just always so tight on space, and something that I came up with that I thought was really cool was instead of using a Dunsparce to set up, what if I went with the Magnetic Call Beldum? And this was something that we saw, honestly, not much in 2004 or 2005. This was a big part of the Metagross Dragonite deck. I think it was Yoenda that ended up in the top 4 in 2006, and that's where I got this idea from, where he used the Magnetic Call Beldum to set up while a lot of other people relied on Holen's Cast Form. So I started off with 4 of the Beldum, and I noticed, which I thought was really cool, was Beldum could grab not only my other Beldums, it could also grab Jirachi, which from there I could set up with. And then there was also a Metal Magnemite, which I thought was really cool, and I could grab it off of that. Now, of course, the Delcatty line wouldn't be searchable, but I knew I could get that with Friend Ball, and I wanted some sort of additional healing. I tried a Xatu in here, and I tried a Blossom. Blossom is just a little bit better. And I knew I couldn't search out the Blossom line, but if I could hit the Delcatty Magneton combo, I could just use my Oracle to get the Blossom in a situation I needed that in. So the Blossom was kind of side. The thing that I came up with a lot was the fact that I would have like the Switch Nurse combo, but I needed something to free retreat back. So I guess before I go too much farther, basically the combo is let's say a Metagross EX is in the active spot. It's got 100 damage on it or something. You play Switch Then you bring up your free retreater, which is going to be the Beldum. Move all of the metal energy to the Beldum using Metal Junction. Pokemon Nurse, you're now no energy Metagross EX with 100 on it. Put it back to 0. Free retreat your Beldum. Bring up your Metagross EX. Because now your Beldum has free retreat because it's got energy on it. Nice little synergy there. Bring up the Metagross EX. And then move all your energy back up to it. And then you can start attacking again. Now, obviously, it's going to reset your extra common punch, which is unfortunate. But you can basically, it's basically unlimited healing. Now, on top of that, if you can get in a situation where you got 4 metal energy on it and a Blossom in play, you're already healing 60 damage a turn. So, realistically, you're not going to have to nurse every single turn. But, it just, if you can get that set up where if you get 4 special metals under a Metagross, and a Blossom in play, and you have your Switch, and you've got your Pokemon Nurse and stuff, that Metagross EX is never getting knocked out. Never getting knocked out. But I didn't need the free retreater, so I had to drop one of the magnetic called Beldums down to the free retreating Beldum, which lowered my consistency a little bit. I wasn't a big fan of this, but it was either this or I had to play a Tentacool. And it doesn't see a whole lot of play, but there is a Tentacool. I think it's in Hidden Legends. Yeah. Where if it has no energy attached to it, Tentacool's retreat cost is 0. I guess the problem with that is that wouldn't even have worked because I would have had to move energy to it. And then it would have had energy to retreat, would have had energy on it, so I would have had to pay 1 to retreat. So that was the basic combo with the deck. Like I said, what I ran into was just the consistency issues because I didn't really have a ton of room to play like 4 Dunsparce or something like that. And then I was already dropping down to 3 Magnetic Call Beldums, which hurts my consistency. I think the 4th Beldum felt pretty good, but you had to have that free retreat in there. And then I knew against like fire decks and fighting decks I was going to be in trouble. So I had to play something else. I teched in a Regirock, and that was to deal with the X-Blood matchup, because I figured if I could get X-Blood in play, a lot of the X-Blood decks aren't even necessarily even running Desert Ruins anymore, so I knew with like Island Cave, Regirock, and then 4 Switch, like, that matchup should be relatively free. So that was the game plan for that matchup. The Blaziken matchup, I messed around with a lot of different things on. What I actually had in the deck was a 1/1 Wailord EX. And then the idea was I could do the same Switch Nurse combo with the Wailord, and then basically one-shot anything in Blaziken. That proved too difficult to pull off, so I took the Wailord out, just accepted that I would lose the Blaziken matchup. I actually started working on a Wailord Sceptile deck, which is based around the Sceptile Wailord Nurse combo, but that's a separate deck. Then with this, I also had a Registeel in here, which is actually really good against Magma, because you can do... Magma's damage output is actually relatively low, and if you can get special metals and you got Blossom in play, you can really reduce a lot of damage, plus the initial 10 from Exoskeleton. So if you ever got 4 special metals, and I know this is asking for a lot, plus the Exoskeleton, plus the Blossom, you're reducing 70 damage a turn. You can wall off a lot of decks with that. Even the Camerupt can't one-shot this if you have enough metal energy under it. And then usually if they have to overheat and stuff to get the energy under the Camerupt, you can usually one-shot the Camerupt. The spread attack was also really nice. It synergized really well with the metal reversal. So I could be putting damage and stuff on the bench. So essentially, the deck just basically worked where you chose something to tank, and that depended on what the matchup was. The Regirock and Registeel combo came from like the 2012 Kling Kling deck, where I thought that was a really cool idea to maybe use something to move energy around, then the Nurse over the Max Potion, and then just kind of a wide range of attackers. Went with the standard supporter lineup here. The Island Cave, when I was working on this Beedrill, was starting to get really popular. I didn't want to take an auto loss to it. Taking in a single Island Cave to deal with that matchup seemed reasonable, even with the high switch count. Just the one Island Cave made sense to me. A lot of decks were playing one Desert Ruins. That made sense to me. The other thing that I ran into with the deck is the energy lineup is just a little awkward because you want, essentially you want to discard a basic energy. You don't want to discard your metal or your rainbow to Delcatty, but then you have to play basically 4 metal and 4 rainbow for the deck to work. So you only play 4 basic energy. I offset this a little bit by running the Miner Air and running Skitty, but it's not a perfect solution for it. But once you hit the first basic energy, you're usually fine. But that was just one more thing where there wasn't one major problem with the deck. It was just a little problem, a little problem, a little problem. And then when you kind of put it all together, along with kind of having a generally inconsistent deck, along with a lot of other little inconsistent things, I couldn't get my win rate above 50% with it. So in the end, I scrapped the deck. I think it's an incredibly cool concept. Maybe something I'll continue working with in the future. Maybe somebody watching this video will have some really good ideas with the deck and maybe have a different direction or try something different with it. But I thought it was a cool concept. It didn't work out, but I wanted to share it with everybody. I'm going to go ahead, wrap up the video here. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. And then, I guess, let me know if you like this sort of content. I think it's really easy to do videos about big successful decks, and it's really cool to brag about some great rogue concept you come up with or something like that. People don't seem to be as quick to talk about failures, and I'm the opposite. I always am very willing to talk about my failures because I feel like that's what helps me grow. So I guess let me know if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I definitely have other decks that didn't work out, but have some good concepts with them. So other than that, I'm going to cut the video off here. I hope to see you in the next one.